when aliens learn humans are the real bioweapon. The bodies in Lagos didn't smell right. Colonel Yusuf Darrow had been to enough outbreak zones to know the particular stench of hemorrhagic fever, the copper tang of blood, the sweet rot of organ failure, the acrid bite of disinfectant fighting a losing battle. But this was different, cleaner, almost surgical. He stepped over a corpse in the street, noting the dried blood crusted around the eyes and mouth. Male, mid-30s, athletic build. No signs of malnutrition or pre-existing conditions. The man had been healthy 12 hours ago. "Colonel," Dr. Amara Okonkwo's voice crackled through his earpiece. "We need you in the mobile lab now." Yusuf picked his way through the market square, past overturned stalls and abandoned vehicles. The silence was worse than screaming. Lagos was a city of 20 million voices, and now it whispered. The mobile lab, a converted shipping container bristling with satellite dishes, sat in the shadow of a hospital that had run out of beds 3 days ago. Yusuf stripped off his outer protective layer at the decon station, went through the chemical shower, and entered through the airlock. Amara stood hunched over a holographic display, her dark eyes bloodshot behind safety goggles. She'd been awake for 48 hours straight. They all had. "Tell me something good," Yusuf said. "I can't," she gestured at the floating genetic sequence. "Look at this. Perfect symmetry. Uniform incubation period across all patients, 62 hours, give or take 30 minutes. Mortality rate of 97% in the target demographic." Target demographic. Yusuf felt his jaw tighten. "You're saying it's selective." "I'm saying it's designed." Amara pulled up another screen, a map of the world with red dots blooming like blood in water. Simultaneous outbreaks in Lagos, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, and Jakarta. 4 continents. 0 epidemiological connection. No patient zero, no transmission vector we can identify. It just appeared. Yusuf studied the genetic sequence. He wasn't a virologist, but he'd worked enough bioweapon cases to recognize engineering when he saw it. The structure was too elegant, too efficient. Nature was messy. This was art. HLA markers, Amara continued, her voice flat with exhaustion. The virus targets specific human leukocyte antigens. It's killing people based on their immune system genetics. Mostly ages 15 to 45, specific ethnic profiles, optimal health. It's harvesting the strongest. The word hung in the air between them. "Show me a patient," Yusuf said. They walked through the containment ward, past rows of isolation tents. Most were empty now. The dead had been moved to refrigerated trucks. The few survivors huddled in corners, their eyes hollow with shock. In the last tent, a girl lay on a cot. Maybe 16. Her name tag read Chiamaka. She'd been a student, Amara said, track and field, full scholarship. Now she was drowning in her own blood. Yusuf had seen Ebola victims, Marburg, engineered hemorrhagic fevers from Russian black sites. He'd watched people liquefy from the inside out. But this girl's eyes, they were clear, aware. She knew exactly what was happening to her. "We've tried everything," Amara whispered. "Antivirals, immunotherapy, supportive care, nothing works. It's like the virus anticipates every intervention." Chiamaka's hand twitched. Yusuf took it, felt the fever burning through her skin. "I'm sorry," he said. She died 3 minutes later, quietly, efficiently. Outside the tent, Yusuf leaned against the container wall and closed his eyes. He'd lost count of how many people he'd watched die. Somewhere after the first 100, the numbers stopped meaning anything. But he remembered their faces, every single one. "Yusuf," Amara's voice was different now, urgent, "you need to see this." She pulled up a new analysis, molecular structure, protein folding, genetic markers. "I ran the viral genome through every database we have. Terrestrial, synthetic, engineered. Nothing matches, not even close." Meaning this isn't from Earth. She met his eyes. This is Xenobiology. We're being attacked by something that evolved on a different planet. The words should have sounded insane. They didn't. Yusuf's phone buzzed. A priority alert from Geneva. He read the message twice, then looked up at the sky through the lab's small window. "We're being recalled," he said. "All teams. Emergency session at UN headquarters." "Why?" "Because the death toll just hit 50 million. He showed her the screen. "And because someone just spotted an orbital insertion over the Atlantic." They flew out that night. Below them, Lagos burned funeral pyres lighting the darkness. Yusuf pressed his forehead against the window and watched the fire spread. Somewhere over the ocean he saw it. A light in the sky that didn't move like a satellite or a plane. It hung there, motionless, impossibly bright. Amara saw it too. "That's not ours." "No," Yusuf said, "it's not." The light didn't fall, it waited. The UN Crisis Center looked like a war room, because that's what it was. Yusuf stood at the back, arms crossed, watching the screens. Every news channel showed the same thing, the ship. It had appeared in high orbit 18 hours ago, a massive organic structure that looked more grown than built. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across its surface like a heartbeat. And then it spoke. Every screen on Earth television, computer, phone displayed the same image. An insectoid face, compound eyes reflecting light in fractal patterns, mandibles moving with disturbing precision. The voice was synthesized, perfectly translated into every human language simultaneously. "You are fortunate," it said. "We have found you." Yusuf felt his stomach drop. "Your suffering can end," the alien continued, its tone serene, almost soothing. "We are the Kethary Swarm. For 3,000 cycles we have cultivated the garden of lesser species. We have brought order to chaos, purpose to randomness. You have been selected for harvest." Murmurs rippled through the crisis center. General Zhao, head of UN security, raised a hand for silence. "The pathogen you experience is a gift," the Kethary said. "It identifies the strongest among you, the most genetically valuable. Those who survive our selection will be elevated. Those who do not serve the greater purpose of the swarm." The image shifted, showing Kethary harvesters tending to rows of alien creatures in biopods, docile, domesticated, livestock. "We offer you the cure," the alien said. "In exchange, you will provide genetic tithe samples of your biological diversity. You will share your resources. You will accept our guidance. This is the way of civilization. This is mercy." The screen showed a list of demands: genetic databases, mineral rights, orbital access, the systematic cataloging and harvesting of human biological material. "We have done this 47 times, the Kethary said. 47 species now thrive under our stewardship. You will be the 48th. Refusal is extinction. Acceptance is survival. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the room exploded. Yusuf tuned out the shouting and focused on Amara. She sat at a terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard, analyzing the transmission itself. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. "I'm thinking they're arrogant," she said. "They broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. That takes enormous power, but it also means they're not hiding. They think we're helpless." "We are helpless." "Are we?" She pulled up the viral genome again, side by side with data from the transmission. "They engineered this plague, which means they understand our biology, which means they had to study us first, which means they've been watching us." Yusuf felt cold. For how long? Long enough to map our genome, long enough to design a targeted bioweapon, long enough to know we'd be vulnerable. She looked up at him, but not long enough to know what we're capable of. General Zhao appeared at Yusuf's shoulder. The man was 60, built like a tank, with eyes that had seen too many wars. "Colonel Darrow, Dr. Okonkwo, you're both cleared for Obsidian Protocol." Never heard of it, Yusuf said. That's the point. Zhao gestured to a secure conference room. We need to discuss options. Inside, a dozen people waited: scientists, military brass, intelligence operatives. Yusuf recognized some faces. Dr. Petrov from the Russian Bioweapons program. Dr. Singh from India's Genetic Research Division. Colonel Reeves from USAMRIID. Publicly, Zhao said, we're going to accept their terms. We'll establish cure stations, provide samples, play the grateful livestock. Privately, we're going to kill them. With what? Someone asked. We can't even reach their ship. We don't need to reach it, Amara said. Everyone turned to look at her. They're coming to us. They'll establish ground stations. They'll interact with our population. They'll administer the cure. She smiled, and it was not a kind expression. And we're going to weaponize that cure. Zhao leaned forward. Explain. They think we're primitive. They think we're victims. They have no idea what humanity has done to itself over the centuries. Amara's voice was cold, clinical. We've survived plague, smallpox, Spanish flu, HIV, COVID, and a dozen engineered bioweapons. We've been fighting microscopic wars since before we had written language. We're not prey, General. We're apex predators in biological warfare. We just need to remind them. Yusuf felt something shift in his chest. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. What do you need? Zhao asked. Everything, Amara said. Every classified bioweapon program on the planet, every virology lab, every genetic database, every piece of research we've ever hidden from the world. And I need time. How much time? However long it takes them to get comfortable. Zhao nodded slowly. You'll have it, all of it, whatever you need. He looked around the room. As of now, this project is humanity's highest priority. Code name, Trojan Cure. Failure is not an option because failure is extinction. 3 days later, the first Kethary shuttle landed in Geneva. Yusuf watched from a rooftop as the insectoid harvesters emerged, carrying gleaming medical equipment. They moved with eerie grace, their chitinous bodies reflecting the morning sun. Humans approached cautiously, desperately, holding out their sick and dying. The Kethary administered the cure with practiced efficiency. Within hours, the dying began to recover. Within days, the plague's grip on Geneva loosened. The world watched, the world hoped. And in laboratories hidden beneath the city, Amara and her team began to work. Yusuf stayed on that rooftop for hours, watching the aliens move through the crowds. They radiated benevolence, these harvesters. They spoke in soothing tones. They saved lives. But he'd seen the transmission. He'd heard them call humanity livestock. He pulled out his phone and sent a message to his second-in-command, Kira Chen. Begin recruitment. We're going to need field operatives in every cure station on the planet. The reply came instantly, already on it. Yusuf looked up at the bioship hanging in orbit, a dark spot against the blue sky. You made a mistake, he said quietly. You should have just killed us all. The cure stations spread across the globe like a rash. Yusuf coordinated from a bunker beneath Geneva, watching feeds from 100 cities. The Kethary were efficient, he'd give them that. Within 2 weeks the plague was in retreat. Death rates plummeted. Humanity breathed easier. And in the shadows, the real work began. Show me what you've got, Yusuf said. Amara looked like death warmed over. She'd been living in the lab, sleeping in 2-hour bursts, mainlining coffee and spite. But her eyes were bright with something dangerous. The cure uses organic nanomachines, she said, pulling up a holographic model. Microscopic constructs that repair cellular damage at the molecular level. They're biological, not mechanical, grown, not built. Incredibly sophisticated. Can we replicate them? Better, we can reprogram them. She zoomed in on the nanomachine structure. They're designed to respond to chemical signals, to target specific cellular damage, but they're also designed to be obedient. The Kethary use pheromone-based command protocols. We've been mapping those protocols for the past week. Yusuf leaned closer. You're saying we can hijack them? I'm saying we can turn them into spies first, weapons second. Amara's smile was sharp. We modify the nanomachines to record Kethary biosignatures, pheromones, genetic markers, metabolic byproducts. Every time they interact with humans, every time they administer the cure, our modified constructs collect data. Then we design a payload. What kind of payload? Dr. Petrov spoke up from across the room. The Russian looked like he hadn't slept either, but his voice was steady. We've been working on virophages since the 1980s, viruses that infect other viruses. The Kethary use biological systems for everything, their ship, their technology, their bodies. If we can identify their core biological processes, we can create a cascade failure. A plague, Yusuf said. A very specific plague, Amara corrected. Keyed to queen pheromones designed to target their reproductive biology and their ship's bioreactors. We're not just going to make them sick, Yusuf. We're going to make them sterile. We're going to kill their ship. We're going to threaten their entire species. The room fell silent. How long? Yusuf asked. We have the theory. We need samples direct contact with Kethary biology. And we need to deploy the modified nanomachines without them noticing. I can get you samples, Yusuf said. Kira's teams are embedded in cure stations worldwide. As for deployment, we introduce the modifications gradually, Amara said. Small batches, distributed across multiple stations. The Kethary are monitoring the cure's effectiveness, but they're looking for human outcomes, not nanomachine behavior. As long as people keep getting better, they won't suspect. Yusuf pulled up a global map, marked with cure station locations. We'll need to coordinate across every major facility. That's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of risk, General Zhao said, appearing on a video feed. If they catch us. They won't, Amara interrupted. They think we're grateful, they think we're beaten. That's their weakness. Over the next 3 weeks, Yusuf barely slept. Kira's field teams worked miracles. A Kethary harvester's discarded medical waste here, a contaminated surface sample there. Tiny fragments of alien biology, smuggled out of cure stations in false-bottom medical kits and hidden in shipments of supplies. Each sample went to a different lab. Russian facilities analyzed metabolic processes. Chinese teams mapped genetic structures. American black sites tested vulnerabilities. For the first time in human history, every major power shared data without hesitation. Because the alternative was extinction. Amara's team worked around the clock, refining the payload. The modified nanomachines were elegant. They'd record Kethary biodata during normal cure administration, then lie dormant until triggered. Once activated, they'd target the alien's symbiotic gut flora, their reproductive hormones, their ship's organic systems. It's beautiful, Dr. Singh said, studying the final design, and absolutely horrifying. That's the point, Amara replied. Deployment was the hardest part. Yusuf's teams had to introduce modified nanomachines into the cure distribution network without alerting Kethary inspectors. They worked in shifts, replacing small percentages of cure batches with their weaponized versions. 5% here, 3% there. Never enough to trigger suspicion. It almost fell apart in Mumbai. Kira's voice crackled through Yusuf's earpiece, tight with tension. We have a problem. Kethary inspector is running deep scans on the cure batch. If he finds the modifications. Abort, Yusuf said immediately. Too late, he's already started. Yusuf's mind raced. Kira, listen to me. You need to create a distraction, something big enough to pull him away from that scan. Like what? I don't care. Fire alarm, medical emergency, structural collapse, whatever it takes. Silence, then understood. Yusuf watched the Mumbai feed, his heart hammering. He saw Kira moving through the cure station, saw her approach a storage area, saw her pull something from her jacket. The explosion wasn't large, but it was loud. Alarms shrieked. Kethary harvesters rushed toward the disturbance. The inspector abandoned his scan. Labs compromised, Kira reported, but the inspector's distracted. Batch is being distributed now. Get out of there, Yusuf said. Already gone. That night, Yusuf found Kira in the bunker's medical bay, getting her burns treated. She'd been closer to the explosion than she'd admitted. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did, she winced as the medic applied synthetic skin. We're all expendable, Colonel. The mission isn't. Yusuf wanted to argue, didn't. 2 days later, Amara confirmed the last modified batch had been deployed. We're at critical concentration, she said, showing him the distribution map. The nanomachines are in every major cure station. They've been collecting data for weeks. We have complete bioprofiles on the Kethary, their pheromones, their genetic structure, their ship's biological systems. And the payload. Ready, we can trigger it whenever you give the order, she paused. Yusuf, you understand what this means. If we do this, we're not just defending ourselves. We're threatening xenocide. We're becoming the monsters. They came to our planet, Yusuf said quietly. They released a plague that killed 100 million people. They called us livestock. They tried to harvest us. He met her eyes. If being monsters keeps humanity alive, then that's what we'll be. Amara nodded slowly. Then we wait for the right moment. When's that? When they're most vulnerable, when they think they've won. 3 days later, the Kethary broadcast again. The same serene voice, the same compound eyes. Earth has been successfully harvested, the alien said. Your compliance is noted. Your genetic tithe is being processed. You are now part of the swarm's garden. Welcome to civilization. In the bunker, Amara turned to Yusuf. Now, she said, we do it now. Yusuf didn't hesitate. Fire. The Kethary bioship hung in orbit, pulsing with bioluminescent satisfaction. Inside, the harvester diplomat reviewed the latest reports. Earth's genetic database was downloading smoothly. The human population had accepted their place. Resistance had been minimal, a few scattered protests, quickly suppressed by the cure's promise. Another successful harvest, the 48th. The harvester diplomat felt the Queen's approval through the pheromone network. Soon, they would move to the next system, leaving behind a compliant population of genetic donors. The humans would be well treated, of course. Valuable livestock deserved proper care. A subordinate approached, mandibles clicking nervously. Harvester diplomat were detecting anomalies in the bioreactor. What kind of anomalies? Nutrient chain disruption, minor but spreading. The harvester diplomat felt a flicker of concern. Run diagnostics, likely a contamination from the planetary samples. But the diagnostics showed nothing, and the disruption wasn't minor anymore. In the ship's vast biodeck, something was wrong. The carefully cultivated flora, engineered to produce oxygen, recycle waste, generate nutrients, began to liquefy. Not rot. Liquefy. Cellular structures collapsed into toxic sludge, spreading through the hydroponic networks like cancer. Alarms shrieked. Harvesters rushed to contain the damage, but it was everywhere. The gestation pods, where new drones were grown, reversed their processes. Embryonic Kethary dissolved in their nutrient baths. The harvester diplomat felt the Queen's panic through the pheromone network, felt the other harvesters' confusion. This wasn't contamination. This was attack. But from where, how? In the medical bay, harvesters who had administered the cure began to convulse. Their symbiotic gut flora, essential for digesting food, processing nutrients, turned predatory. They began consuming their hosts from the inside out. The harvester diplomat accessed the ship's biomonitors, watched in horror as system after system failed. the organic computers that controlled navigation, the living filters that purified air, the neural networks that coordinated the swarm's collective consciousness. All dying all at once. What is happening? The Queen's pheromones screamed through the ship. The Harvester diplomat didn't know, couldn't know, until it analyzed the Cure nanomachines. They'd been modified, reprogrammed, weaponized. The humans, the livestock, they'd done this. Impossible, the Harvester diplomat whispered. They're prey, there. But the evidence was undeniable. The nanomachines carried a payload keyed to Kethary biology. Every time a harvester had administered the cure, every time they'd interacted with humans, they'd been infected. The humans had turned the swarm's own weapon against them. The Queen's chamber filled with the stench of sterility. Her reproductive organs, so carefully maintained, began to fail. Her genetic line, 3,000 cycles of cultivation, was dying. The Harvester diplomat tried to broadcast a distress signal, but the ship's communication systems were failing. Tried to purge the contamination, but it was in everything. The walls, the air, the water. They were dying. All of them. On Earth, Yusuf watched the bioship's vital signs collapse in real time. It's working, Amara said, her voice hollow. Atmospheric integrity dropping. Bioreactor output at 30% and falling. They're suffocating. Around the world, Kethary harvesters began to die. They collapsed in cure stations, their bodies convulsing as their own biology turned against them. Humans watched in shock, then understanding. Then satisfaction. Yusuf felt nothing. He'd seen too much death to feel satisfaction, but he felt relief. Cold, hard relief. They're trying to broadcast, a technician reported, patching it through. The Harvester diplomat's face appeared on screen. The serene confidence was gone. Its compound eyes reflected terror. What have you done? It rasped. What are you? Yusuf leaned forward. We're the species you tried to harvest. We're the prey that fought back. We're humanity, he paused, and you made a mistake. We offered you civilization. We offered you mercy. You offered us slavery, Yusuf said quietly. You called us livestock. You killed 100 million of us to prove you could. You thought we were helpless. He smiled, and it was not kind. We're not. The Harvester diplomat's image flickered. Please, we can negotiate, we can. No, Yusuf said. You can leave or you can die. Those are your options. The transmission cut out. Amara pulled up the bioship's status. They're trying to purge their systems. It won't work. The payload's too deeply integrated. They have maybe 48 hours before complete system failure. Will they leave? If they want to survive, yes. Yusuf nodded. Then we wait. 36 hours later, the bioship began to move. It limped out of orbit, trailing atmosphere and biological debris. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically, like a dying heartbeat. The Kethary harvesters on Earth scrambled to evacuate, abandoning their cure stations in panic. Humanity watched them go. In the bunker, General Zhao appeared on screen. Colonel Darrow, Dr. Okonkwo, congratulations, you saved the human race. Yusuf didn't feel like celebrating. They'll be back, or someone else will come. We've shown our hand. Then we'll be ready, Zhao said. We're establishing a permanent biodefense program. Every nation, full cooperation. We'll never be vulnerable like this again. After Zhao signed off, Amara turned to Yusuf. He's right, we won. At what cost? Yusuf gestured at the screens showing Kethary casualties. We just committed genocide or close enough. They tried to commit genocide first, Amara said. We defended ourselves. With a bioweapon that could wipe out their entire species. Yes, Amara's voice was hard, and I'd do it again, wouldn't you? Yusuf thought about Chiamaka, dying in that tent in Lagos. Thought about the 100 million others. Thought about what the Kethary would have done if humanity had been truly helpless. Yes, he said, I would. The Kethary bioship reached the edge of the solar system before Yusuf made his final move. Open a channel, he said. The harvester diplomat appeared on screen, barely recognizable. Its chitin was cracked, its compound eyes dim. Behind it, the ship's interior was dark, failing. You're still alive, Yusuf observed. Barely, the alien's voice was a rasp. You've killed us, are you satisfied? No, Yusuf said, because you're not dead yet, and I need you to deliver a message. The harvester diplomat's mandibles clicked weakly. What message? Tell the swarm what happened here. Tell them humanity is off limits. Tell them we're not livestock, we're not prey, and we're not victims. Yusuf leaned forward. Tell them we're apex predators in biological warfare. Tell them we've been fighting microscopic wars since before we had written language. Tell them we've survived plagues that would have wiped out your entire species. They won't believe. Then let me demonstrate. Yusuf nodded to Amara. She triggered a command sequence. Halfway across the solar system, a Kethary relay station, a small biological outpost used for navigation, suddenly went dark. Its biosigns flatlined in seconds. We just deployed a test sample, Yusuf said calmly. A modified version of what we used on you. That station is dead. Everyone on it is dead. And we can do it again to any Kethary installation, anywhere. The harvester diplomat stared at him in horror. You have a choice, Yusuf continued. Leave Earth alone. Purge all human genetic data from your archives. Spread the word that humanity is a pathogenic intelligence too dangerous to cultivate, too deadly to harvest. Do that, and we'll let you live. And if we refuse, then we'll hunt you. Yusuf's voice was cold. We'll find every Kethary world, every bioship, every relay station, and we'll infect them all. We'll make your species extinct, not because we want to, because we can. The harvester diplomat was silent for a long moment. Then, you're monsters. Yes, Yusuf said, we are, remember that. The transmission ended. 3 days later, the Kethary broadcast one final message. It was brief, clinical, devoid of the earlier serenity. Compliance confirmed. Human genetic data purged. Earth reclassified in swarm archives, pathogenic intelligence. Do not cultivate, do not harvest, do not engage. The bioship jumped to FTL and vanished. In the bunker beneath Geneva, Yusuf and Amara stood alone in the empty crisis center. Outside, the world was celebrating. Humanity had won. The aliens were gone. But Yusuf felt no triumph, only exhaustion. We're going to be feared now, Amara said quietly. The galaxy is going to know what we did. Good, Yusuf replied. Fear keeps you alive. Is that what we are now, the monsters in the dark? Yusuf thought about it. Thought about the 100 million dead. Thought about Chiamaka's clear, aware eyes as she drowned in her own blood. Thought about what the Kethary would have done to humanity if they'd succeeded. We're survivors, he said finally. We're the species that fought back. We're the prey that became predators. He looked at Amara. And if that makes us monsters, then so be it. She nodded slowly. What happens now? Now we prepare, because they won't be the last. Someone else will come. Someone else will see Earth and think we're easy prey. Yusuf pulled up a schematic of the secure vault being constructed beneath the bunker. We're going to store samples of the virophage, insurance, and we're going to make sure every nation on Earth has access to the research, if anyone threatens us again. We'll threaten them back, Amara finished. Exactly. They stood in silence, watching the celebration feeds from around the world. Humanity had survived, but it had changed. It had shown its teeth. Yusuf opened his personal log, began typing his final entry on the Kethary incident. They came to make us prey. We reminded them what humans are best at, surviving, adapting, and killing anything that threatens us. We've been doing it for millions of years to predators, to each other, to microscopic organisms we can't even see. We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest, but we're the most dangerous because we never stop fighting, we never stop adapting, and we never ever forget. The Kethary learned that lesson. The next species that comes to Earth will learn it too. God help them. He closed the log and looked up at the ceiling, imagining the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Kethary were limping home, carrying their warning. Somewhere out there, other species would hear about Earth, about humanity, about the pathogenic intelligence that turned a plague into a weapon and threatened xenocide without hesitation. Some would stay away. Others wouldn't. And when they came, humanity would be ready. Because that's what humans did. They survived, they adapted, they killed. And they never, ever stopped being dangerous. Yusuf smiled grimly and walked out of the crisis center, leaving the lights on. Just in case. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more journeys. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for the next adventure.